Welcome back. CHAROK Rinpoche is back to our show. Some of you are very anxious to hear from Rinpoche. And before I introduce you to Rinpoche again, I wish to say that the following topic is, how can I say this? Very different from my practice because I am from the Gelugpa tradition and my precious root guru as well as my teacher had never introduced me to a different lineage. Probably because of me. I need to be focusing in one lineage, practice it enough to be able to learn different lineages later in the Tibetan Buddhism. And for me, there's nothing wrong about it. I truly prefer to single-pointed focus than having too much information all at once when I am not ready, when I'm not qualified for it. So with that in mind, I hope you have an open heart, accept this question that came from a few Dharma friends who have a concern. And quite honestly, I don't feel I'm qualified to ask this question because I don't know anything about that special lineage. But you urged me. So I took the courage, okay, to approach CHAROK Rinpoche. And CHAROK Rinpoche is very kind, very compassionate. As you well know, Rinpoche had agreed to address this concern. And perhaps don't jump into the conclusion just yet. Rehear it, and rehear it. Every time my precious root guru explains something to me, and everybody knows, His Eminence Chodan Rinpoche knows that Rinpoche has very few words. Like Geshe-la always said that. And that's true. And if His Eminence Chodan Rinpoche taught something, it's very specific and he rarely elaborated. And it's up to you to take that information, go home and contemplate on it. Sometimes Rinpoche just said to me one word and I had to go home and think about it for like a few months before I could understand and then practice it. And that is part of Vajrayana, Tantrayana, I think, is that the teacher never said anything out loud, but just give you the nutshell and you have to contemplate. You experiment, you come up with your own experience, and you can then discuss that experience with your guru or your teacher to see if you are on the right track. And that's called Tantrayana or Vajrayana or secret practice. I see the difference with, for example, my Mahayana teacher, Sutrayana teacher. They told us exactly the way it is, and we should go home and practice exactly the way it is. Well, that's not with Tantrayana. They don't really hold your hand like that, even though they hold your hand, but you don't know. They do, but you don't see that they hold your hand, but they actually watch you, but they don't tell you. And if you went wrong, well, of course, your guru will guide you to go back to the right track. But it's not obvious like in Sutrayana, if I may say that. And then with Theravada, oh my goodness, it's like you do this, you do this, you do this, or you get yelled by your teacher in front of the class. I had seen so many times like that, okay? No, I didn't get yelled at because I am a very slow learner, so I be quiet and listen and don't say a word. They told us exactly the way it is, and we should go home and practice exactly the way it is. And there is another thing too, and that is I don't ask questions when I attend a Dharma teaching in a Theravada or Mahayana temple. Usually I wait until the end and ask the teacher, when people left already, because I didn't want to interrupt the teaching. That is another protocol. But in Tantrayana or Vajrayana, you have to ask questions during the class. Otherwise, you may go home and practice and go somewhere else where your teacher and your Dharma friends might be somewhere else, not on the same path. So that's the difference, With that, I'm going to give you CHAROK Rinpoche on the topic that very difficult for me to ask, but many of you have urged me to ask this question. So kick back, relax, and take notes, okay? Have fun. Thank you. Tashi Delek Rinpoche, we all are very happy to hear your voice again. How was your vacation, Rinpoche?
My vacation?
Yes, you
What
went
vacation?
to New York, right?
Oh, yeah. Short trip was good.
And you came back, and now we can continue, right?
Yeah, sure.
Rinpoche, there are some urgent questions about Padmasambhava Buddha, about consorts. And I don't know if you feel okay to discuss about it a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. We don't go in details, but yeah, we can brush through.
Thank
I
you,
don't think
Rinpoche.
it's, yeah, we can just brush through.
I would say in Asia, a
Yeah?
lot of Buddhist people are more in Mahayana Buddhism, like
Yes.
Zen Buddhism, right? And
Yeah.
so Tantrayana is a little bit more advanced for
Yeah.
us. And sometimes people discuss freely about the consort, and especially in the public. And for most Asian Buddhist people, they feel very embarrassed. They
Yeah.
feel annoying. But for Westerners, those things people discuss freely. So how do we balance it? How do we deal with it, cope with it when some people talk about this in the public?
Well, there's a very good reason to why Vajrayana or Tantrayana is known to be as the secret practice. One of the things about Buddhism nowadays is that, you see, in the world, people are always looking for faster ways, better ways,
Yes.
faster, well, mostly faster, right? So
Yes.
even when it comes to achieving enlightenment, they talk about faster methods.
Yes, Rinpoche.
One of the things that I remember very clearly His Holiness saying at a talk, a public talk that he gave in Bangalore, is one of the questions was, which is the fastest way in Buddhism to become enlightened? And I'll never forget this answer. His Holiness actually laughed and then said, nowadays people are looking for faster, better, cheaper, things that give better results with less time and less money, all of this. But in Buddhism, that doesn't work.
Yes.
So I think there's this very strong misconception, not exactly misconception, but a very strong misunderstanding of what Tantra really is, or what Vajrayana really is. Now, because of that misunderstanding, then I think people, what they do is they rush into Vajrayana or Tantrayana at a very early stage, which becomes a big problem. It starts with a big problem and becomes a big issue and ends up as a big crisis or a big, fail or flop or whatever you call it.
Wow.
So one of the things that you need to understand about Buddhism is there are paths. Now, Vajrayana is a path.
Yes.
And Vajrayana actually comes after you progress to a very high level in the general Dharma, in Sutra.
Yes.
This misunderstanding that Vajrayana is a separate path, therefore, if you take that path, it's faster and better and I don't know, so on and so forth. So this is, I think, one of the biggest misunderstandings.
Oh, thank you.
You see, I think we talked about this earlier. In order to enter Vajrayana, at the least, you need to understand that one has to develop the three principal paths, as we call it, right? Renunciation, bodhicitta, and the view of emptiness. These three things are like tools to enter the Vajrayana, not tools that you get after entering, but tools that you take before entering into the Vajrayana.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Rinpoche.
So, if you misunderstand this and think that Vajrayana is a separate path, and by taking it, then you can develop renunciation faster and bodhicitta faster and compassion, the view of emptiness faster and then achieving enlightenment faster, then that's, I think, a very big misconception.
Yes.
One thing to clarify between Vajrayana and the general practice of Sutra.
Yes.
Tantric path actually comes after the tenfold paths in the practice.
Yes.
After. So in Sutrayana, we call it Gyuntawa. Gyuntawa means the ones who have reached their last stage of practice. Is called Gyuntawa in Tibetan. So actually, Tantric or the Vajrayana path starts in that level or something like that. In the 10th, when you come to the 10th paths, then we have first path, second, third, fourth. So at the 10th path, then only the Vajrayana path starts.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that before entering Vajrayana path, you actually need to go through those other 9 paths. And then without even entering the Mahayana path, they start entering the Vajrayana path. Then the problem, no big problem.
Yes.
And one of the things is that the students also need to understand that you come into the 21st century, then it's not the religion, but the people who misuse the religion, that they use it in different ways. And then if the students aren't aware, the problems start to arise. So the best method is through understanding these things that can maybe help people in understanding what Dharma is better.
But Rinpoche, there are so many books, and in the internet there are so many free information that sometimes we don't even know which one is reliable and which one is not reliable.
You need to know that in Dharma there's many different teachings. Okay? Only in Mahayana there's different teachings in Mahayana. One of the great accomplishments of the Buddha was that he was able to teach people in their own mindset. So therefore there are so many different teachings. And one of the reasons I think why all of these are up in the internet is because a lot of people asking so many different people, so many different people, because so many different mindsets. Therefore, they seek different things.
Yes.
So the information people put out, or if you are this kind of person, then this kind of teaching, and if you are this kind of person, then this kind of teaching. And I always tell people that it's not others who can judge the state of your mind. You are the only one who can judge the state of your mind. So you need to be aware of what state you are in. And then based on that, then you proceed onto your practice now.
Wow.
If you go around touching every book and if you go around reading everything, then it's like chaos,
Yes.
If you look in the sutras, then Buddha first he said that everything is merely arising from the mind, and to another group he has said that it's not just the mind, it's partly mind, partly from the form itself or from the object itself. Then in another teaching he has said, no, it comes merely from the object. So different people, you need to in different ways to teach. There's another saying in Buddhism, we say if Buddha was alive in a place where people didn't know how to eat, then instead of teaching Dharma, he will actually be sitting.
Wow.
Based on different mindsets, there are different teachings. And one of the only persons who can actually tell you what is the right way or the right path or the right teaching is either those who have clairvoyance or yourself. I think those are the only two people who can actually set you on the right path.
Wow.
But like I said, there will come a time when Vajrayana becomes unnecessary in your practice, and then you will know when you are ready. A lot of people, they enter without knowing that they're ready. You need to know that you are ready.
Yes.
And how you know that you are ready comes from practicing sutras.
Yes.
Reading sutras, understanding the teachings. I always say, it's like class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yes.
So if you start off with class 10, then first you think you are learning something, then at the end, you see that everyone is learning so fast and everything is going so fast, then you're totally lost, no?
Yes. So this ends the first part of this difficult topic for me, Buddha Padmasambhava and the consort. Stay tuned for part 2 with CHAROK LAMA SHERPA RINPOCHE, and I thank you for your tough questions. Feel free to write to us or contact us with your important questions for CHAROK LAMA SHERPA RINPOCHE. And thank you for listening to San Jose Godzilla. Have a fantastic day.